They saw a simple man with dirt under his fingernails who spent his days planting flowers and cleaning park benches. What they didn't see was the way Tom positioned himself for maximum visibility of the surrounding area, how he instinctively calculated ranges to every building, how his seemingly random work routes gave him perfect overwatch of the entire downtown district, or why he kept a tool in his cart that definitely won for landscaping. Welcome to Faces Behind Stories. Before we dive into this incredible story of hidden skills and unexpected heroism, tell me in the comments from which city are you watching this video today. And if you believe these stories of quiet guardians deserve to be heard, hit that subscribe button, because sometimes the person trimming your roses is watching over your safety. Riverside Park sat in the heart of downtown like a green island surrounded by concrete and glass office buildings. Apartment complexes and shops created an urban canyon around the 20-acre space that served as the city's breathing room. Joggers used the paths every morning, families brought children to the playground, and office workers ate lunch on benches under old oak trees. Tom Mitchell had been maintaining this park for 8 years, arriving every morning at exactly 6 a.m. in his city maintenance truck, wearing the same faded green uniform that made him invisible to most people. He was 52 years old, with graying hair, kept military short-weathered hands that showed years of hard work, and a quiet demeanor that suggested he was exactly what he appeared to be, a simple municipal worker who took pride in keeping the park clean and beautiful. But Tom was much more than he appeared, and if you knew what to look for, the signs were everywhere. His work routes through the park weren't random. They were calculated patrol patterns that gave him clear sightlines to every street corner, every building entrance, every potential threat within a 6-block radius. When Tom trimmed hedges, he positioned himself to provide cover and concealment, while maintaining observation angles that would make a military tactician proud. When he planted seasonal flowers, he chose locations that gave him natural firing positions with clear backgrounds. When he picked up trash, he was actually conducting reconnaissance, mapping the daily patterns of everyone who used his sanctuary. The maintenance shed where he stored equipment was just organized. It was strategically positioned to provide overwatch of the entire park while offering concealment and multiple escape routes. The tools in his cart weren't just for landscaping. They were arranged for quick tactical access, and hidden among the rakes and pruning shears were items that definitely weren't issued by the City Parks Department, including emergency medical supplies, communication equipment, and the weapon system he hoped never to use. Tom knew every regular visitor to his domain. Mrs. Henderson, the elderly widow who fed pigeons every Tuesday and Thursday at exactly 10 a.m., bringing the same paper bag of breadcrumbs, the morning joggers who ran identical routes at predictable times, Mike, the construction worker who ate lunch on the same bench every day, Sarah, the nurse who walked through on her way to the hospital, the teenagers who gathered near the basketball court after school. He cataloged their patterns, their habits, their normal behavior, and when something deviated from normal, Tom noticed immediately. What the joggers who passed him every morning didn't know was they were being protected by someone who could put a bullet through a dime at 800 yards. In crosswind conditions, the mothers pushing strollers had no idea they were under the watchful eye of a man who had once held off an entire enemy squad for 6 hours using nothing but superior positioning and tactical discipline. The business people eating their sandwiches never suspected their peaceful park was guarded by one of the most lethal precision shooters in modern military history. Tom had been Staff Sergeant Thomas Mitchell. 3rd Battalion, 75th Ranger Regiment, specialized in long-range reconnaissance and precision elimination. 15 years of active duty service, 3 brutal tours in Afghanistan, 2 in Iraq, 127 confirmed kills at distances ranging from 200 to 1,847 yards, and a service record that included the longest successful precision shot in Ranger history, made through a sandstorm using a rifle he had assembled from spare parts. But that was another life, another identity, another version of himself that Tom had deliberately buried when he retired from the Army 8 years ago. Not because he was tired of fighting, but because he was tired of ending lives. He had seen enough death, dealt enough destruction, spent enough sleepless nights wondering if the world was better or worse because of his actions. When the city of Riverside offered him a job maintaining their downtown park, Tom saw it as perfect redemption, quiet, honest work that allowed him to use his tactical skills to protect people without them ever knowing they needed protection. He could be a guardian instead of a weapon, a protector instead of a predator. Until the morning when 3 armed professionals decided to rob First National Bank, Tom was pruning roses near the park's east entrance when he first noticed them. 3 men in dark clothing moving with coordinated purpose toward the bank building. Their body language was all wrong too, alert, too focused, too synchronized for ordinary pedestrians. Tom had seen this kind of movement before in Iraq, when insurgents were approaching targets in Afghanistan, when enemy fighters were positioning for coordinated attacks. These men moved like a unit, like professionals who had rehearsed their approach multiple times. He continued working with the roses, but shifted his position slightly to get a better observation angle, using the natural cover of a flowering bush to conceal his surveillance. One of the men kept checking his watch in a pattern that suggested precise timing. Coordination, another was conducting systematic visual sweeps of the street for police patrol cars with the methodical attention of someone doing counter-surveillance. The third man had his hand positioned inside his jacket in a way that clearly indicated a concealed weapon and training in how to deploy it quickly. Tom reached into his maintenance card and activated the small digital radio he kept hidden among his gardening tools, a commercial unit that had been professionally modified to access police frequencies. City, dispatch, this is Tom Mitchell at Riverside Park. I need immediate police response to First National Bank possible armed robbery in progress. The dispatcher responded with practiced efficiency. Tom, this is Central Dispatch. We show no active alarm from that location. Can you confirm your observation? Negative on bank alarm. Tom replied while maintaining visual contact with the subjects through his peripheral vision. 3 armed subjects moving in tactical formation, professional bearing, coordinated timing. They have the bank entrance under direct observation and are synchronizing watches ETA to target approximately 30 seconds. Tom, please move to a safe distance and avoid the area, dispatch replied. Patrol units are en route, but ETA is approximately 4 minutes. 4 minutes. Tom knew from extensive combat experience that bank robberies either concluded successfully in under 90 seconds or devolved into hostage situations with unpredictable and usually violent outcomes. These men had the bearing and coordination of professionals, not amateurs who would panic at the first sign of resistance. Tom set down his shears and reached deeper into his cart, past the gardening tools to something wrapped in canvas, something he had hoped never to use again, but maintained in perfect condition. The rifle was a custom-built Remington 700 precision system chambered in .308 Winchester with a tactical suppressor that reduced both muzzle flash and sound signature to nearly undetectable levels. The scope was a Leupold Mark IV with custom elevation and windage adjustments that Tom had personally calibrated. The entire weapon system had accompanied him through multiple combat deployments before retiring to his maintenance cart, where it lived, disguised as surveying equipment. Tom had spent years modifying and improving the rifle, adding enhancements that made it more accurate than anything the military had issued: custom barrel work, hand-loaded ammunition with precision tolerances, bipod modifications that allowed for rapid target acquisition, and a trigger mechanism that broke cleanly at exactly 2 pounds with no creep and perfect reset. He assembled the weapon system with practiced efficiency that came from performing the same task thousands of times under combat stress: bolt, body scope, bipod, all components connecting with mechanical precision, while he maintained visual surveillance of the 3 armed men as they disappeared into the bank building, moving with the confidence of people who had done this before. 30 seconds later, the first terrified screams echoed from inside the bank, and Tom knew his 8 years of peaceful retirement had just ended. Police cars arrived as panicked customers ran from the bank, but 3 people didn't emerge. 2 tellers and an elderly security guard were still inside. What should have been a quick robbery had become a hostage situation. Officer Sarah Chen established a perimeter, but the bank presented tactical problems. Tinted windows made it impossible to see. Inside, side entrances were blocked. Any assault would risk innocent lives. Through his precision optics, Tom could see details that were invisible to the responding officers' movements behind the tinted windows, indicating the positions of both hostages and hostage-takers, muzzle flashes from warning shots being fired at the ceiling to demonstrate serious intent. The terrified faces of the two female tellers pressed against interior glass, one of whom appeared to have been struck and was bleeding from a head wound. The elderly security guard was on the floor but appeared to be conscious, and the three gunmen were becoming increasingly agitated as police presence continued to build outside their temporary fortress. The police negotiator arrived and began trying to communicate, but Tom could see through his scope that the lead gunman was becoming increasingly agitated, waving his weapon, pointing it at hostages, making demands that grew more violent with each passing minute. "Dispatch, this is Tom. I have visual on interior situation. One subject is escalating rapidly, may harm hostages very soon. Tom, evacuate immediately. SWAT is en route, ETA 90 seconds. Tom looked again. The agitated gunman had struck one teller with his weapon. The other hostages were cowering. The security guard was trying to protect the women and receiving kicks for his efforts. This was about to go very wrong. The nearest SWAT position would be 400 yards away, behind barriers with no clear shot. Tom was 200 yards away, with perfect elevation and a gap in the tinted windows that lasted exactly 3 seconds every 45 seconds when the gunman moved between positions. Tom had taken harder shots under worse conditions, but never when failure meant watching innocent people die, never when success meant revealing himself as something other than a park maintenance worker. Tom made a decision that would change everything. Tom moved with practiced stealth to his optimal firing position behind the concrete maintenance shed that provided both concealment from observers and the exact elevation angle he needed for a clean shot. The structure would hide any muzzle flash from witnesses, while the slight elevation gave him a clear trajectory over the police barriers, straight to the narrow gap in the bank's tinted windows. The rifle felt like an extension of his body, as Tom settled into the shooting position. Muscle memory from thousands of hours of training and hundreds of real-world engagements took over as he adjusted the bipod legs, checked scope settings, and began his environmental calculations. Wind speed was minimal, temperature was steady, humidity was low, all atmospheric factors that favored precision accuracy. Through his scope, he could see the lead gunman had escalated to holding his weapon against the security guard's head while screaming at police. The man's finger was on the trigger. His body language suggested he was seconds from executing a hostage. Tom controlled his breathing using techniques from 15 years of precision. Shooting, exhaled, halfway, held steady, allowing his heart rate to slow. He calculated distance 187 yards, accounted for crosswind, estimated glass deflection, and waited for his window of opportunity. The gunman moved into position exactly where Tom calculated 3 seconds of clear shot through the gap. No civilians in background, clear trajectory that would end in concrete wall behind target, eliminating any possibility of over-penetration. Tom steadied his breathing, controlled his heartbeat, felt the trigger break point, and squeezed with precision that had made him legendary. The suppressed rifle whispered. The specially loaded bullet traveled 187 yards, in less than a quarter second, struck the gunman's center mass and dropped him instantly. The remaining gunmen spun around, confused, searching for the source while they were disoriented. SWAT breached the side entrance, secured the scene, neutralized remaining threats, and evacuated hostages. The injured teller was rushed to ambulance. The security guard was helped to his feet, shaken but alive. But Officer Chen had military experience and recognized the sound of a suppressed rifle. She was scanning the park with binoculars, found Tom disassembling his rifle and placing it back in his cart. "Tom," she called, approaching with weapon drawn, "step away from the cart and show me your hands." Tom complied, placing hands behind his head while Chen secured the weapon. "Who are you?" she demanded, staring at the military-grade rifle with custom modifications. "My name is Thomas Mitchell. I'm a park maintenance worker." "The hell you are. You just made a precision shot most police snipers couldn't make." The investigation revealed everything Tom had hidden. Staff Sergeant Thomas Mitchell. 3rd Battalion, 75th Ranger Regiment, Purple Heart. Bronze Star, Silver Star, and classified commendations for actions still considered national security secrets. Detective Mike Rodriguez found himself facing a man who had been invisible for 8 years while being one of the most dangerous people in the city. Why park maintenance? Rodriguez asked, studying records that read like action movies, because I wanted to build things instead of destroying them. Tom replied, I wanted to make a place where families could feel safe, where children could play, where people could find peace. I was tired of being a weapon, tired of ending lives, but you kept the rifle, maintained your skills, old habits. You never know when you'll need to protect what you care about, and today proved I was right. The media wanted interviews. Tom declined. The mayor wanted to give him a medal. Tom refused. The police chief wanted to offer him a job. Tom said no thank you. All Tom wanted was to return to his roses, to his quiet life of keeping the park beautiful while keeping people safe. But everything had changed. The joggers nodded with new respect. Mothers smiled and said thank you. Business people looked at him with awe. Children would stop and stare when their parents told them this was the man who saved people. Tom was uncomfortable with attention. He had perfected being overlooked, and now everyone was looking. 3 weeks later, Officer Chen approached while he trimmed hedges. The hostages want to meet you, she said. The security guard, especially, wants to shake your hand. I was just doing my job. Your job is maintaining the park, not precision sniper operations. Tom smiled slightly. Sometimes the jobs overlap. 6 months later, Tom still arrived at 6 a.m., still wore the same uniform, still maintained the most beautiful urban park in the state. But now there was a small plaque near the Rose Garden placed by the city council over his objections. In appreciation of Thomas Mitchell, whose vigilance and courage saved lives and reminded us that heroes walk among us every day. Tom tried to have it removed, but the mayor refused. Children would stop to read it, learn that sometimes the person doing the humblest job might be the most heroic. The rifle stayed in his cart because Tom understood retirement from military didn't mean retirement from responsibility to protect people. It just meant finding new ways to serve. The bank reopened with new security, but employees still waved to Tom. The security guard visited to thank him personally. Tom had found his perfect assignment, guardian of a place where families felt safe, children could play, and people found peace, exactly what he had always been fighting for. Rangers lead the way. Tom thought every morning the motto still applied, even if his battlefield was flower beds instead of mountains, even if his mission was maintaining beauty instead of delivering violence. The skills remained: observe, orient, decide, act, protect those who needed protection, stand ready when action was required. Sometimes the most important work happens where no one expects heroes. Sometimes the person trimming roses is keeping you safe. Sometimes a warrior hangs up his uniform, but never stops serving. Tom Mitchell had found his calling, guardian of a space where ordinary people could live extraordinary lives without knowing how close danger came or how skillfully it was turned away. Have you ever noticed the quiet people who work around you? The maintenance workers, security guards who seem invisible until something reveals who they really are. Share their story. Because heroes are everywhere, wearing work clothes instead of uniforms. Subscribe to Faces Behind Stories for more tales of hidden warriors, quiet guardians, and everyday heroes who protect us while we live our lives, never knowing how much courage stands between us and danger, because sometimes the most important battles are won by people no one notices until the day they save your life. For 8 years, the arrangement had worked perfectly. Tom kept the park immaculate while keeping the surrounding area under constant surveillance. He had quietly prevented 3 muggings by positioning himself where potential attackers could see him, watching 2 drug deals by making his presence known at exactly the right moment, and 1 attempted sexual assault by arriving with his pruning shears at precisely the moment a predator was closing in on his victim.